going to introduce herself and kind of introduce her college experience for y'all.
Awesome. Thank you, Jade. So yes, as Jade mentioned, my name is Brooke, and I am currently attending Texas A&M University in College Station. I am going into my senior year. Woo, super excited. And I'm studying marketing with a concentration in advertising. So in the business school there at Texas A&M, and I'm loving it. But yeah,
Awesome.
it was a big transition. I mean, anyone going from high school to college is going to be able to tell you that. Like, it's weird, you know, you don't know what you're in for.
Right.
And for me, especially, I went to the same schools. I lived in Hutto all my life. I never knew any different. And so moving out of a small town into a four-year university, it was weird. I mean, I got lost on my for several days, I guess. And I just even remember calling my sister and just being like, I don't know where I'm at.
Right.
Because she attended Texas A&M, and so she's trying to help me, and it's very overwhelming at first. And you're not only are you trying to battle figuring out where you are supposed to go on campus, but you also are battling paying bills and being on your own and having to know how to make sure strawberries are good or not. You know, like it is weird to have to adjust to that. But tell us about your experience, Jay, because yours was a little different, you know, than mine. So introduce yourself and then tell us about your experience.
Awesome. Yes. So I am a student at UT, Hook 'em Horns. We always joke because we have a little rivalry going on, but we make it work. We're still best friends. Yes, I'm going to be a junior this coming fall at UT. I major in public relations in the communications school. And I started attending UT in the fall of 2019. And my experience was and has been a little bit different. I made the decision to actually stay at home and attend UT and be a commuter. I commuted to school. You know, that was mainly a decision I made for financial reasons, but I'm so incredibly blessed to have a family who supported me in that. And it was definitely different, and especially being the oldest of my brother and I. So I was the first one to go off to college. So it was we were learning, you know, how to submit all these different things and how to kind of sign up for classes and all of this stuff. But it definitely was an interesting experience not being on campus and not necessarily moving out. I did my best my first semester to get as involved as I could, to kind of have a schedule for myself, to, you know, still financially support myself with everything I need with groceries and everything like that. But it was definitely different. There were times that I did wish I could have, you know, some roommates or some people my age that I was living with to kind of relate to kind of understand my situation. But nonetheless, I absolutely loved being a student at UT. I've, you know, wished I had a little bit more on-campus experience. We're going to kind of touch on the pandemic in a little bit, but yeah, it's been awesome. I've loved getting to visit Brooke up in College Station. She's kind of been my home away from home when I needed to get away.
She's our adopted roommate.
Yes, all of her roommates, they're the best. They always welcome me with open arms, even though I have that Longhorn sticker on the back of my car. But
I forgive her. It's fine.
But like I said, we did want to touch on tonight, you know, college in this pandemic, because as the world knows, and as I'm sure you know if you're watching, it changed a lot.
Yeah.
And it changed the world, it changed school. We both have educators in our family. We know how stressful it's been for teachers and for us as students. So Brooke, do you kind of want to touch on how that has affected you kind of having to come back home after moving away?
Yeah, well, that was a huge adjustment.
Yes.
And I love my parents. I really do. They're great. But you definitely learn to depend on yourself when you go to college and you're living alone. You know, you don't have that person to call 24/7 or to just walk out of your room and be like, hey, like I need help with this and stuff. And so it was really weird, like if I was going somewhere to like have to say, oh, I have to tell my parents, not like for permission to go places, but just to remind them that I'm going somewhere instead of just like walking out, because normally I would just like go to study and go on campus. I wouldn't have to tell anybody, you know, where I was going. It was super weird, and it was an adjustment. And I mean, it was just as much of an adjustment for my parents as it was for me. And I know that a lot of college students experience that, and a lot of parents experience that. being that a lot of people had nowhere else to go, I mean, they shut our school down. Like, that was it, you know?
Yeah.
You couldn't go on campus even if you wanted to. And so it was a huge adjustment in that. And then on top of that, having to do classes virtually and making that adjustment while making an adjustment in your life and trying to figure out, you know, how to manage all that.
Absolutely.
So that part was really weird, and it has been difficult even to this day. I feel like we've seen a lot of things that have carried through that have are continuing to affect our future.
Absolutely.
You know, and
absolutely. Well, and I can definitely attest to that, because even though I made the decision to stay at home, I did not realize how much I was going to be at home until COVID hit. And I know every place is a little bit different, but UT went completely virtual, which a lot of places did at the beginning of the pandemic, but I've been completely virtual since March of 2020. So I actually have not been back on UT's campus since then. This fall, I actually, I believe I still have one in-person class that I'm registered for, so that will be my first time actually attending class in over a year. And that was definitely interesting because, like Brooke said, it was such an adjustment. There was so much unknown, and you know, for the world, and it was really hard at times to, you know, have this motivation to do so well in my classes and do well in these things that I'm studying when we were being told, at least I was personally told by some of my professors, that we don't know what the job market's going to look like after this, or we don't know what we're necessarily studying for because we don't know what the world's going to look like. We don't, you know what I mean? So there were definitely times where it was like, it was just so overwhelming. I think
it's discouraging for sure.
It was discouraging at points. Yes.
You are paying money for something that you don't even know if you're going to get anything out of.
Absolutely.
Because at that point, especially when COVID hit, like, it was just, no one knew, not even professors. Like, every single one of our professors would come to class and be like, I don't even know what to tell you. You know, I don't even know what I'm teaching next week, because it was such an adjustment for everyone, and it was hectic. And I think looking back at it now, I mean, I think that it was a huge experience that I was able to grow a lot as a person. And even with my parents, I mean, our relationship grew a lot. I mean, I was already really close to my parents, but we learned, you know, how to live with each other as adults, you know, because it wasn't the same thing as me being 12,
and for the good beginning of it, you literally were in the house all the time.
You could not go anywhere.
You couldn't go anywhere because everything was shut down.
Yeah.
And so, and yes, I definitely, that was an adjustment for me and my family as well. Even though I was still at home, like I said,
But it was different,
I was gone.
You know?
Yeah.
You were always, it's like the fact that you're like always there. And so that's what makes it, you know, it makes it crazy.
It's,
you know?
absolutely.
It can be difficult. Well, Jay, tell us, what are some things that, in terms of you leaving and going to college, like what are some things that maybe you struggled with whenever you first left? Because we talked about kind of that adjustment, but what are some things that you discovered about yourself and things that you struggled with within that first little bit of?
Absolutely. Well, my first semester, like I said, I was a commuter, so my schedule is I would commute to campus, I would do class all day, and then I would commute back. I typically rode the bus because it's free for UT students, and like I said, I'm all about saving money. So that was kind of my schedule, and I met some amazing people my first semester, actually at orientation. One of my very good friends, you know, we're still very good friends to this day. She's such an amazing person, but it was definitely hard, I think. Seeing, especially a lot of my close friends, none of my close friends went to UT. In fact, majority of my graduating class didn't go to UT. I was one of 5 students that went to UT. And so they did all move away. A lot of them were at A&M. And it was hard kind of seeing people be able to kind of have that same friend group that I had grown up in, be together, and I necessarily wasn't there. I was so happy for them, and I loved being able to branch out and meet new people. But it is kind of hard seeing all these people get together and seeing everyone that you know go out or go spend time with their friends or go do this, and you're so far away. And at the same time, being a commuting student and not living on campus, it is very difficult to attend social gatherings if I don't specifically make the time, and with classes you're so busy, and with you know, all of these different things, it's so hard to balance that, but especially when you don't live near other people. And so that was an adjustment for me, just kind of having to deal with a little bit of loneliness, kind of having to take that on. That was something I never had experienced before. And like I said, I'm so incredibly blessed to have my family and the friends that I do who supported me through that. And then on top of that, you know, I kind of came into my second semester saying, you know what, I'm going to have a perspective change. It's going to be good. I'm going to do all of this stuff. And then COVID hit. And that made it a little bit harder because it was one of those things that was just like, you don't have a choice. You have to stay in. And so I think that's something that's super important, that people already struggle with so many different things in college. So this pandemic on top of it, it's been a lot. I'll definitely say, and I know Brooke can relate if you kind of want to elaborate on some things you discovered about yourself.
Yeah, well, I discovered a lot. But in the best way. There was a lot of things that I worked on. A lot of things that I worked on because I was super busy in high school. I did everything under the sun, like just everything.
Mm-hmm.
I was always involved. I would leave for school in the morning, not come back till super late at night. And that was just how I was. And so there was a lot of things that I didn't know about myself because I was just so distracted and so busy all the time. And college is busy, but it's a different kind of busy. And if you've been to college, you know what I'm saying. Like it's just different. It's not the same as when you're younger, you know, and having sports and events all the time to go to. And so you find yourself with some kind of awkward downtime that you aren't really used to in between classes or just maybe at night. I mean, in college you stay up super late and you wake up real early. Absolutely. Just is what it is. And so, especially in my freshman year, I discovered that, wow, like I really struggle with not having anything to do, and I really struggle with anxiety, and I have to check assignments 30 times before I can sleep at night, like just different things that I had never really discovered about myself. Like I knew that I was always concerned about being responsible and having everything together, and I was always really concerned about making sure that I turned in all my assignments, got good grades on them. Like that was normal, but it was different because it was in an overwhelming feeling that I hadn't experienced before.
Absolutely.
And going through that my freshman year and experiencing that alone, because my roommate, she's actually one of my really good friends from high school. Love her to death. She's the best. We've lived together since our freshman year, and we're going to live together our senior year. So all 4 years of college, we've lived together, and she was going through her own stuff at that time as well, like discovering herself and figuring things out and going through the same kind of mental health things that I was going through. And so it was really hard for us to kind of, we tried our best to be there for each other, and we were there for each other, but it was more in a disconnected way because we were both like trying to make ourselves
you both
whole,
don't understand. You're trying to support something.
Yeah, it was weird.
Exactly.
And so it was really easy, like you said, like there was a lot of times where you felt lonely, and it was really easy to feel alone. Absolutely.
Well, and I like what you said because I think it's so true. Is like Brooke, I was super busy in high school. If I didn't have anything to do, I'd be like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
I did every extracurricular, was always at some sort of event all the time.
Yeah.
And I think college is such a self-discovering place because your schedule is so different. It is. It's just going to change. And I definitely did kind of realize some things about myself as I was like, okay, why do I like to be so busy? What is it that I didn't consciously realize maybe, at the time or didn't even back then that, why do I feel the need to be so busy? Why do I freak out when I'm alone? Like what is happening like in my mind that I don't want to be alone or not doing anything? Yeah. And so I think that's something that is super important that a lot of college students face and may not necessarily know what it is. You know what I mean? Like that they're kind of like, I don't understand what's happening. Like this isn't something I've ever dealt with before, and maybe they have, and they're just kind of like, oh, it's a different weight to carry when you're in a college environment. So I think that's something that's interesting, but that is also very important for college students.
Yeah. Well, and it is. You're right. It's so different. And that's why I said, like, you're so busy in college, but it's just a different kind of busy. And yeah, I mean, I definitely went through a lot in that time, but I was really fortunate, and I know that a lot of universities are this way, that they have a lot of resources, helplines and counselors and different things that you can see even just to talk to. I mean, I went to see a couple people, and they would even do online visits and stuff, and I didn't talk to them about anything. They were my friends. Like, I just talked to them, and it helped a lot because I didn't always necessarily want to bother my mom or bother Jade or bother my sister because they had their own life and their own things going on too at the same time, you know? And they love to call me during class, not, you know, whenever I'm not in class. So it's really hard to get a hold of them.
We pretty much have like opposite schedules.
When I'm
busy.
free,
she's in class, but.
Yeah, my mom and sister, they don't have the same excuse. They just call me when I'm in class.
Absolutely.
Because they have that luck. But,
absolutely.
Yeah, it definitely was an adjustment.
It's an adjustment.
Yeah.
Well, and I can say, I do just want to say hello, Ricky. We're so glad you're joining us tonight. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below. But no, I absolutely agree. And I can say with 100% certainty that if I did not have the Lord, I would not have been able to make it through that. And you know what I mean?
100%,
like it's,
yeah.
It really is. And we have an episode that we're going to dedicate kind of to spiritual journeys throughout college, which we're super excited for. We're actually going to speak on that next week. But
keeping your
faith and your
remaining in your walk with Christ in college. In that, because you know, it is an adjustment. And even touching on that, like even finding a church when you move away and you know you go to college, it is difficult.
Absolutely.
And you have to be so careful about where you choose to go. It is important to be very cautious about that. But it took me a while, and that's where I think that I struggled so much too. Even more on top of that is that I grew up in church. Like, I'm the pastor's granddaughter, I'm the associate pastor's kid. Like, I'm a PK, and I'm also a pastor's granddaughter, like all of it. So church was all I knew, you know, ever since I literally was born.
Right.
And so not having that when you go, because you don't just get to go and walk into any church and that be it.
Absolutely.
You know, some people get lucky that way. And for me, it wasn't that way. I had to try several churches out and kind of be inconsistent, not with going, but in finding a place. Like, you weren't going to the same place. You were trying to, you know, find your home. And luckily, I finally found my home, and I love it there.
Absolutely.
But that part was really hard for me because it was something that I needed and was such a foundation for me here.
Yeah.
That moving away, I needed that same thing, and that was important for me to, you know, find.
Absolutely. Well, and I can say that is one thing I'm so blessed by staying home. I was able to continue coming to church here and continue attending Sunday services, and that is something I'm so incredibly grateful for. And I think that honestly was a really big help in kind of my journey and kind of figuring myself out and through college. And that's what's so awesome, I think, or I guess I should say interesting about our experiences, is we're kind of able to lean on each other in those different areas that we may not necessarily have in our college experience, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I just thought that was interesting because we kind of have like a flipped, flipped kind of experience and a flipped kind of journey, but nonetheless, it's equally amazing and equally difficult, I think, I should say. And I do want to provide encouragement to you if you're watching tonight, and if you're a student, if you're a professor, if you're just in your job, you know, anywhere it is, I know it's probably, it can be difficult, and whatever kind of situation or season you may find yourself in, just know you're not alone, and know that we understand, and we've been there in that. So
for sure.
But I think it's just important to talk about, because I think that part of college is not necessarily elaborated on enough. I think that people spend a lot of time on the academics, which are important, you know, it's why you're going to college, but at the same time, I think it's important to address the emotional and the mental side of things, because at the end of the day, those are what make you you, and those are what people struggle with, and so I think it's important to bring up.
Right. Yeah.
But
you grow up real fast, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
You do.
You do. Yeah. Well, and even, you know, kind of going off that, I've almost feel like I'm in the same situation right now, because like I said, I haven't been physically on campus in almost 2 years, and this semester I am, you know, this past year, Brooke, she did move back home to College Station. Even though she had online classes, she still went back to her apartment, and so I'm physically going back for a little bit this semester, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little intimidated. I'm a little nervous, because I forgot how to do college life, because
you're like freshman all over again. That's really how it feels.
Yeah, in a computer, on a computer in my bedroom for so long, and now I'm like, oh, I actually have to go places, and you know, attend tests in person and be there by a certain time.
You can't wake up at
I can't do it whenever I want.
7:45 whenever your class is at 8.
I have an 8 a.m.
You
class.
can't do it anymore.
Yeah, so I'm definitely going to kind of walk that journey again. I'm excited. Campus life is going to be different with different regulations, so I'm interested for that.
You're making me nervous now because I go back full
yeah, you go back too.
I go back all in person. Like A&M was just like, we're not doing it anymore. The professors hate the online, and so we are like going all in, full back to classes. And I was talking to my roommate, and I'm like, I don't even know if I know how to take the bus anymore. Like, I
haven't used my ID in 2 years. My student ID.
It's so weird because I've been doing online school longer than I've been doing college, like in-person college.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Insane.
That's so weird.
Well, I've even told her before. I forget sometimes that I actually go to UT. You know what I mean? Because or the football game will be on, or these things, and they're like, oh, the Longhorns da-da-da, and I'm like, oh, I can go there.
Yeah.
But it just feels, it's surreal.
It's so crazy.
So I'm definitely looking forward to that, but I am a little nervous because it's going to be different, and we've become so complacent in this virtual setting and this.
But I think it's good. I mean,
no, I'm excited.
I am so glad.
I'm ready
because I think that in a lot of ways, going on campus and making those connections and building relationships is what helped me in my mental health, especially my freshman year. And I think that it's important that we get that back.
Yes.
And I will say that there's a huge part of me that has felt like I've lacked in experience with people and experience with doing, things. Like it's weird. We all got so used to how it was, and I just want to be comfortable again in a personal setting. And especially in marketing, it's really hard to work in marketing without being around people and without having those personal relationships.
Absolutely. And that's when COVID happened. That was both of our majors. Is like our major is to be with people and to build relationships. But I did want to mention really quick, and she just reminded me that, like she said, building relationships is such a crucial part. And I can speak, from my experience, as I said, going in to the beginning of college, I knew nobody. And it was very different for me because like Brooke, I've gone to Hutto my whole life, and I've known the same people. I've always been comfortable with people, always been friends with everybody, been able to talk to everybody, and I've never really had to meet new people, you know what I mean? And kind of everyone knew me, I guess. And so I was really nervous because nobody knew me. I kind of had to establish a reputation for myself, and I'm not a trusting person. And I don't want to get too far because we do have an episode dedicated to this, but that is definitely something that I was nervous to do, to meet new people and to really branch out, because like I said, I've known the same 400 people in my class since kindergarten.
Yeah.
So that was definitely an interesting experience, and COVID made it all the more entertaining virtually. But
yeah, tonight that was basically what we wanted to kind of touch on, was just we wanted to first just talk about kind of that transition and what it's like, and really dive into next week, retaining your faith in college and understanding ways to do so, and how beneficial and important that is for your future.
Of course, absolutely.
But yeah, if there's anything in terms of just talking about this right now, and like Jade said, if you're in, let's say you're starting out your job, or you are just beginning college, or you're about to go into college, or you're about to get out of college.
Season.
Yeah, if you're in a new season, just biggest thing is like, remember to ask for help. And I'm the worst about that, and I will totally own that. And I am reminded all of the time that, it is always okay to ask for help, and that you should, because people are willing to help and people want to help you, especially people who have been in the same situation. People want to help, and if there's anything I can encourage you with, it's to ask for help, to reach out, and to do that, because it's important.
It's important, and you're worth it. You matter.
For sure, yes, so. It's so important. But wrapping that up, just wanted to remind y'all that we will continue. So this is actually our last Wednesday here in our
this
church,
physical
in this building.
Yes.
But just so y'all know, we wanted to let y'all know that we will be continuing Church Unplugged. It'll just be at a different location, but we will still have it on Wednesdays.
Every Wednesday.
Same time.
It may look a little different, but we We are still continuing it. For those of you that don't know, we did sell our church building. We are about to begin construction, excuse me, I can't talk, on a new building. And we are just so blessed for the times that we have gotten to spend here. So yes, as Brooke said, this is our last Wednesday in this location, but we will be back next Wednesday with our next episode, just in a different place.
This chair keeps squeaking, so.
But I think, do you have anything else to add? Or
I don't think so. I think that was it.
I think we pretty much covered kind of what we wanted to talk about.
Sure.
So thank you all, as always, for joining us. We love having you guys. We love getting to conversate, bring these topics to fruition, and we're really looking forward to continuing the conversation next week. As always, don't forget to like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. Those are two great platforms to stay up to date with what's happening here. We hope that you all have a very blessed rest of your week and a very happy Independence Day this coming Sunday. So thank you all so much, and good night, everyone.
Good night.